We are live on Facebook. Hello, everybody. I'm Love Coach Scott Katamas, and I get to introduce you to one of my favorite human beings. But not only do I personally adore her, but I really want people to learn about the amazing service that she provides. And of course, I'm talking about Jessica Osterday. You're going to be seeing a lot of Jessica tonight. Trish, by the way, is on vacation. She's traveling with her beloved, and they're somewhere in Arizona, I think, right now. They're like camping and canyon hopping. So blessings to Trish, and she sends her blessings to you, Jessica.
Oh,
You know, we're going to have Jessica start by leading us on a meditation, and then we're going to talk about brain spotting. So, Jessica, I'm going to put the spotlight on you.
oh, thank you so much. I'm actually really excited to lead a meditation. Scott and I just talked about this. Um, so I really am deeply connected to spring and also to Easter, but more of the pagan roots of Easter. So Easter but even in the Judeo-Christian way, it's a time of rebirth, right? It's a time of life sort of coming back alive. And I don't know about you guys. I'm sure, each of us have our own individual experience of spring. I know for me, I've been feeling a little bit sleepy and feeling like the sort of the bits of winter sort of leaving and then coming back into spring. But I wanted to lead a meditation just so we can drop in a little bit wherever you're at today and start to bring in the spark of newness, whatever that means for you. So go ahead, if you're in a comfortable place and you feel safe and good and happy closing your eyes, go ahead and rest your eyes for the moment. We're just going to start by taking a couple of long, deep breaths. So go ahead and inhale and exhale. And I want you to notice your body, wherever it is right now. Just notice what it feels like. Notice your skin. What does the air feel like on your skin right now? Is it a little bit cool? Is it a little bit warm? Just notice that boundary of self interfacing with the outside world as you come into your being and start to focus within. And as you're in this really sweet place, or wherever you find yourself, go ahead and imagine what spring looks like to you. Imagine for me, I think about the little blades of grass coming through the earth. And I imagine I'm in California, and so all of the dryness of the summer kind of fades away, and all the trees start to get their leaves on, and we just see little bits of green coming through. I want you to just imagine and hold that image in your body. What feelings come up for you when you feel spring, when you think about spring, about the newness, about the flowers, about the blossoms? And as you're sitting here, whatever beauty you're imagining in your mind right now, see if you can breathe in that feeling and just allow it to grow in your experience of life right now. So for me, I'm imagining the beauty outside of me, and I'm imagining that spark of beauty and that spark of life in my chest, and I'm breathing into it and allowing it to expand and fill my being. So go ahead and just take a couple of deep breaths here, filling yourself with that, whatever it is that spring is for you. Drinking it in. And as you're ready, come back to Scott and I here. maybe you feel a little bit renewed. Maybe you feel sun-kissed. Maybe you feel winter melting. Wherever you are, we would actually love to hear. So if you want to share in the chat box or you'd like to share with us, we would love to know what that brought up for you and what newness means for you right now.
Mm, beautiful. Um, well, I want to welcome, we've got a dozen people in our chat box in our Zoom room. So welcome everybody. And please pop into the chat box. Any thoughts? How, what you experienced? And likewise, for those of you on Facebook, I'll periodically check the Facebook comments and share them with Jessica. I just took a walk with my dogs just before, so I was able to easily tap into, there's a field we go through at a particular place, and the smell of the grass, somebody just cut grass near the field, and I love that smell. And it's just not quite sunset yet, but cooling down. And so I could still feel the sense memory of that, on my body and the smell of the grass. So that's kind of what came up for me. And spring is all about renewal for me. Spring is definitely a season that I love. And especially because we've gone through such a difficult winter, as humanity. And so, and, now things are beginning to happen again. The CDC said that people who are vaccinated, and I got vaccinated, can travel. It's safe to travel.
Wahoo! Yeah.
That kind of comes up. I see that Luana writes, thank you, by the way, Luana, for writing in the chat box. She writes, I'm filled with the beautiful flowers and the joy that they bring into my heart.
So Scott, Luana is actually my mom.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Well, now,
Yeah.
so Luana, I want to thank you. Thank you for whatever you did to support Jessica to be who she is. She's such an awesome human being. Thank you, Mom Luana, for bringing her into her body. And thank you for guiding her and supporting her and probably putting up with some moments.
What, me? I don't even know what you would be talking
Only when you were, only when she had Luana, thank you.
Thanks, Mom. Thanks for coming. So, Scott, one of the things that I love is that you were born on Christmas, and my last name is Osterday, which means Easter. And it comes from the goddess Ostara or Astarte. She has other names also, Ishtar. And she's the goddess of love, war, and fertility. So that's one of the reasons why I have such a Easter for me. Also, I grew up with like 20 something cousins. And so Easter was like pinatas and egg hunts and just so fun. So it's always a sweet time.
Yeah, those are beautiful memories. Well, I'm sorry to Christmas. I still have my Christmas tree up.
What? Do you really?
Seriously, I'll take a picture of it. Show you my Christmas tree. I'm looking at it right now. It's still up.
Oh my gosh.
I'm seriously thinking of having it up all year. And just to say that in 2021, every day was Christmas.
I love that. Also, I'm imagining, I don't know if this is true and no judgment one or the other, that it might be an artificial tree.
No, it's a real tree.
It's a real tree.
It's a real
Is
tree.
it in dirt or is it?
No, it's in a pot that we keep adding water to. I mean, it's brittle, baby. It's brittle. It's probably.
Oh my God, you're so committed.
I wanted to see if I could at least make it my half birthday, at least till June 25th.
Oh my God, I support you. Please do it.
A couple more comments. John, who's one of our wonderful regulars from Saturday Night Live, he's with us from Norfolk, Virginia. Guy writes, spring renewal of the outer world in nature with sprouting beauty and renewal of inner world with spiritual renewal and rebirth. Beautiful, Guy. Thank you.
Yes.
And Venice Inventors is kind of saying, okay, enough about this. I want to know what Brainspotting is.
Oh my God, yes. Thank you for your enthusiasm. Like, seriously.
It's almost like, okay, knock off the spiritual stuff. What's Brainspotting?
Yeah, no, I love that. Okay, so first as a caveat, Brainspotting is like the least sexy word Okay, the title of the show was chocolate. What's better than chocolate? It's Brainspotting. I used to have a chocolate company. I ran it for 7 years, did great. It was called Gracias Chocolate. And that is a sexy industry. Chocolate just rolls off the tongue, it's pleasure. Brainspotting needs introduction, I think.
Yeah. Well, so I'm going to say one thing. Brain spotting may not be the sexiest term, but uh, I run the Love Coach Academy. I train coaches. I have access to amazing coaches that I've trained and access to amazing peers and colleagues that I know. And when I get triggered and I got stuff coming up, Jessica's who I go to. And that's no small thing because I'm a total snob about other coaches and therapists because I think I'm so brilliant. Um,
You are
I don't
Scott,
know. I've
obviously.
had a
Aw.
lot of experience. No, seriously, Jessica, is who I go to. Um, so I'm going to primarily not say too much more other than maybe sharing comments. I really want for Jessica to share about brain spotting, but I just wanted to lead by saying, truly, it's amazing work. She's an amazing therapist, coach, friend, healer, support person, whatever you like to call yourself, because you're kind of all those things when you're working with me, and I know when you're working with people. So take it away, Jessica, and tell us all about brain spotting.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much, Scott. I just so value and appreciate you allowing me to share today because I am so deeply passionate about brain spotting. And so, what it is, so I started in the life coaching industry because I'm pretty goal oriented. Like I am a healer by nature. Before I had the chocolate company, I was a massage therapist for 10 years. I'm deeply intuitive. I'm really in tune. I love empathy. I live through, I live through my empathy in my spiritual world. Like I love that so much. But, at the end of the day, we seek out help because we're hurting and we don't want to hurt anymore. And like I said, I had this chocolate company, which is production based. Like, I'm really invested in creating results for people because that's what we need. That's what we need. Like, it is important and valuable to talk and invest in ourselves and understand the reasons why we behave in certain ways and go into some of the childhood stuff if we need to. But I really want people to live the lives that they want and the lives that they dream about. I mean, I want that for myself. I want that for Scott, but I also want that for everyone because I know what's possible when we have the right tools. So I'm gonna give because I'm forgetting your name, but that wonderful person is like, what's brain spotting? I really want to like jump and explain it before giving too much story. So basically, I'm gonna just give a little rundown of the brain and talk about the basics of what brain spotting is, and then we can go into why it's helpful. So here we go. This is your brain. I know I can also pull up a diagram, but I like this way of describing it because I feel like it's fun. So if you can imagine this being your forehead, like this is your brain from the side. And this part you can imagine being that pinkish, grayish, gross, but I think it looks kind of gross. It's like wrinkly, and that's the neocortex over here. And if you go underneath that, so neocortex, and then we have the prefrontal lobe right here. So it's the forehead. And that has to do with spirituality. This has to do with skill sets. And it's sort of our adult brain. It's like who we are when we're really functioning as adults. So it's like, when you're in a relationship and like you're really happy together and you're having a great day and some small thing comes up and you're able to deal with it really effectively, really quickly without getting super triggered because you're like mainly in the neocortex here. But say you like didn't get any sleep that night and your partner just happened to repeatedly push the one button that you just can't freaking deal with that night, like that part lives lower. Oh gosh, Can you see me? That part lives lower in the brain. So when we go under the neocortex, we have the midbrain here. And as you would imagine, it's in the middle of the brain. So we have that. And that one is responsible for emotional responses. And like anything under the neocortex is considered neocortical. And it's also considered mainly unconscious or subconscious. So you have the neocortex here, conscious mind. Then you have the midbrain, subconscious mind. And then you have the brainstem here. And so when Scott talks about, because, you know, I've trained with Scott for many years. And so if you've listened, I feel like, Scott, do you still share the dinosaur, the reptile brain a lot, like during your shows? Do you have it there? Yes.
I muted
Beautiful.
myself, but yeah, here it is. You know, it's sad he lost his little voice, the little voice box. He used to go.
I like when you do it too. That's pretty fun. So, okay, so we have neocortex, conscious mind, subconscious, we have the midbrain and the brainstem. So, when we're talking about, am I allowed to cuss on this one, Scott?
Yes, this is our
Okay.
Friday night straight talk show.
Awesome. When we're talking about shitty behavior patterns that we don't have real control over once we get triggered, we're talking about stuff that's stuck in the midbrain and in the brainstem, primarily the midbrain. So the midbrain is also called the limbic system. And I feel like I should have come with a glossary of terms. But basically, what you really want to come away with is that when we're learning skills, when we are in our adult mind, we are mainly in our conscious mind, we are mainly in the neocortex. And then when we get down here, that's where the shitty stuff lives, right? That's like where the past, like the ghosts of our past, sort of get stuck and lodged. And they run the show when they're trying to protect us. So that's when you get into, you know, we talk a lot about fight or flight, but what's less talked about, and I think it's probably more talked about in this show because Trish is on it, is fawn or freeze. So we have fight, flight, fawn, or freeze, which are all reactions based on us assessing that there's a potentially dangerous situation or an uncomfortable situation. And our brain will react, but it reacts from those lower parts, the midbrain limbic system. So, what is brain spotting? Basically, brain spotting uses visual eye placement. So, we look and we focus at different points with the eyes. And that seems like such a small thing, right? It seems like such a small thing to focus attention that's directed with our eyes. But I mean, it's not just looking in one direction or another. We'll get into it a little bit deeper. But basically, what happens is that our visual field, our actual ability to move our eyeballs, is directly linked to the midbrain. And so in brain spotting, we say where you look affects how you feel. And it is shockingly true. And so, what I love about brain spotting is that it is extremely intuitive, it's oddly easy, and it's crazy effective. So, Scott, I'd love for you to jump in and talk because you've actually had it done before, and I feel like maybe you can help me understand like what holes to fill in for information and for.
Well, so kind of riffing on what she said so far and what I've experienced with it. One of the things that's important to know is that because most of us are no longer in physical survival, but some of us still live in a constant state of low-grade anxiety or hypervigilance, we're triggering our own reptile brain with our own fears, our own paranoia, our own stories, right? Now, I have a lot of empathy because if you had an unnatural childhood, and your father, who was supposed to provide safety, didn't, or your mother didn't nurture you, or you've had some really horrific experiences, or times where you had to constantly be on edge, there's nothing wrong with you. That's your body learned how to protect you by staying safe, staying vigilant. The genius of her work with brain spotting is that even people who have been carrying a certain level of fear, paranoia, stories about not feeling safe, through her incredible unconditional love and the technology, she can help clear it. And I want to say what I appreciate about Jessica is that she understands and has studied the technology part of it. But when I've worked with her, and kind of, I'll drop into my deepest fear, my deepest shame, or my deepest stuff, and I might be there for like a while, like 20, 30 minutes, and I kind of open my eye, and she's just there loving me, like Mother Mary would be loving you. It's like really, it's just like pure love, and it's like it's okay. Take your time. You're doing great. And I'm now 4 years old, you know, 4 years old with long hair. Um, and she's just holding that beautiful space. And I want to say that that's really, to me, the combination of you understanding the technology of how to move things in the brain and clear the brain, but also holding such a nurturing, loving, unconditional loving space. That's the award-winning combination for me, Jessica. So
Thank you so much, Scott. I really appreciate it. Yeah, I feel like in certain ways, I mean, so much of when we get healing work done, that attunement that we have with the person that we're working with is so important. Because, like you say, and like I always repeat to people because it's such a great way to say it, is that usually our deepest pains have happened when we felt the most alone or that no one was coming to help us. And the times when we feel most connected are the times that we usually feel the safest. So as a human, you know, there biologically we feel the best when we are connected to others. So often in our minds, those hardest places that we have with ourselves, whether it be shame around not doing the work that we feel like we should be doing in the work, or whether it's judgment about well, I work with a lot of people with anxiety, and so often there's a tremendous amount of shame and pain around why they shouldn't be having anxiety, why they should be feeling grateful, but that's just as traumatizing as some of the basic, some of the reasons why they're already caught in these loops. And so having someone who like deeply cares and loves you in that moment, or when we can offer love in that moment, I think that that's a really huge part of the healing.
Jessica, we've got 25 people in the Zoom room with
Oh,
us.
sweet. Right on. Thanks, guys.
A couple of them are asking if you could actually work with them, do a little example of it, if you'd feel comfortable doing that. Now, of course, I've worked with you on Zoom, but I don't know. Of course, I want to say to people, this is a long process. The sessions I've done with Jessica always were like between an hour and 2 hours. Um, is there a homeopathic dose you could do with somebody? Is that a possibility?
Well, so we can do one thing. So I never want to, in a group situation, we never want to go into heavy hitting, like dark areas without having that direct attunement. And I wouldn't feel comfortable just in protection of these beautiful people, because if they go to a deep place, I want to be mindful of that, the sanctity of that. But one thing that we can do.
We've got somebody who wants to come on and ask a question.
Oh yeah, I'm down for that. Let's
Okay.
go. Yeah.
So Venice Inventors, not quite sure what their name is, but I just have promoted you to panelist. And let's see. Well, now that's interesting. Oh, okay, there they are.
Oh, good. Hello.
Oh, I need you to unmute, please.
Hello,
Hi.
nice that you allow us to be here, Mr. Scott and Jessica. It is
Oh,
the first time hearing about this, and I find that I think it's about going inside to your deepest fears and bring them out and face them, right?
it's sort of a combination because we can work in different ways with brain spotting. Basically, what we're doing is we're finding the somatic experience of either the pain or trauma that you want to work with or negative belief system, or we can work on the positive side of something really great. So let's say that I'm struggling with maybe it's a performance-based issue. Maybe it's I'm nervous that I'm coming on this show. And so beforehand, what I might do is I might drop into my body. And thank you so much for this beautiful question, because sometimes, I'm talking, but I don't know if I'm like missing key points. So thank you. But so one of the ways that we can work is that I might go in and say, all right, I'm feeling a little bit insecure about going on the show today. So I might notice, where is confidence for me right now? So I might just close my eyes and I might feel, okay, I'm going to think of a time when I felt really confident in my life. So um, there was a birthday party that I had a few years ago, and I felt everyone around me looking at me with love. And I felt seen. And so I'm going to close my eyes and I'm going to drop into that sensation. And then I'm going to find that sensation in my body. And then what we do is we would find a corresponding eye position for it. And I say, because what's surprising is that, like, when you hold it to the left, it can be stronger, or when you hold it to the right, it can be less strong. And we find a corresponding spot that matches or taps in deeper to that somatic experience of the brain. And then it's almost a meditative practice where we meet the spot, holding the understanding or the feeling of that confidence in being loved by all of those people while I'm holding the eye position and allowing that somatic experience to drop in at a deeper level. And what happens is that when we're in that state, different things can happen. So sometimes, like, a harder experience might come up because my body now feels resourced in order to be able to process something that was difficult. Because a lot of times, like when we go through really difficult things, our body can go down into freeze
Mm-hmm.
because we didn't know what to do with it at that time. So when we resource ourselves from these positive experiences, often we can process things at a much deeper level because we ourselves feel more comfortable, confident, safe, knowing our own strength. And yes, you're totally right that everything comes from within. So I'm not going to say, oh, you need to look at this one memory, or you need to, because all of our answers are inherently ours. And this process really, like, honors people in that.
Wow, thank you so much. Thank
Yeah. Do you have any other questions? Did I answer your question efficiently? Do you anything else?
you. You did answer. So if we would
Okay.
like to have a session with you, we just contact you.
Yes, please. So what you can
How to
do,
contact you?
yeah, I'm gonna send. I'll give Scott the Acuity link, and it's just like an easy online scheduler. So we would just set up a 20-minute session and chat about, and it's free. The consultation is free, and we would talk about what you're wanting, and make sure that we're a good fit, and then we would schedule from there.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Oh my gosh, you're so lovely. Thank you so much yourself. I really appreciate it. Such an honor. Yeah.
You. We should definitely put in the chat box that scheduler.
Okay.
You want to put that in the chat box right now, and I'll cover for a moment by reading a couple of other people's comments?
Yes, I would love that. Thank you.
Good, absolutely. So, kind of going back to earlier when she did that beautiful opening meditation. For any of you coming in, I see a lot of people are still coming in. You can go back and watch the replay. Um, but we didn't get a chance to hear from Charlotte, who wrote, "Spring is when Mother Earth comes alive. All the plants, insects, and animals awaken from their slumber. The promise of hope, rebirth, renewal, and abundance." And then one of our Facebook readers, or viewers, I should say, has a question for you, Jessica. She asks, how many sessions does it usually take for changes to take place?
That's such a beautiful question, and I get that all the time, and I typically really don't know. I'm so sorry. I wish that I could tell you 4 or 2 or 27. It's usually not 27, but okay, so I'll just tell you what my philosophy is. My philosophy is that, you know, I wanna support you for as long as you need to, and we don't necessarily know how fast it's going to move through or how deep the issue is. And so I've had people who come to me and they've done a tremendous amount of work. They've been in therapy for years. They just have this one thing. Like I had this, she's an amazing human. I appreciate her so much. And she was in an emotionally abusive relationship for many, many years. And then it had been 2 years and she got re-triggered about, I think a year later, she had tried dating someone else who brought up a lot of these things. So she was having nightmares, I think 4 or 5 days a week, where she would just wake up in terror around this emotional abuse. And so we had one session together because she was already a life coach. She had already done all of this therapy and it was just one session. But that's definitely like not super common. I would say typically, gosh, it really depends on where you're starting from. Some people really, I mean, some people, there's an opening process where you're really learning emotional intelligence at the same time. You're learning to listen to your body at the same time. There's a deepening and there's a learning going on. And then other people are really just attuned with the process and it's like that. So my I would say get a free consultation and let's talk about it. And then I might be able to give you a little bit broader idea about what that looks like.
Beautiful. Good.
Yeah.
Another question that came in from Facebook, same person actually, so thank you very much. Wanted to know if you have a structure of a sliding scale or if you take insurance.
I do not take insurance. I have I don't typically do sliding scale unless there is an expressed need, and I only do sliding scale for an established amount of time. So it's for a specific amount of time when we do the sliding scale.
And do you feel comfortable sharing what your rates are on?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So for the hour, I do 150, and for an hour and a half session with a follow up, I do 220. And I do have some packages as well, and we can talk about those more.
Great.
Yeah.
All right, good. So, when, as an example, I've gone to Jessica twice, and both times I only needed 2 sessions. Like what I was working on, there was really big progress, and it kind of something came up. I worked with Jessica, and I went through my stuff for a couple of days, and she's so good. She's like checking in to make sure how am I doing, and it resolved. So like she said, it really depends on the person, the situation. I know sometimes we work with people that for the very first time are bringing up really big, dynamic, hard stuff, which of course is going to take more sessions. In both my cases, they were actually things that I already knew. I'd already done the work to know that, okay, I've got this thing about this thing. And so we were able to kind of, go in more quickly. It was more like a little more surgical in a sense.
Yeah. Well said. Well said.
Tell us a little bit more about maybe some of the examples of things that people have worked with. That's what.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, God, I think I just like drop into such a heart space when I think about it because I feel so honored to be able to help people or hold space for people. And um, so many of my clients, I would say, struggle with things like I don't feel good enough. It doesn't matter how hard I try. I just don't feel like it's ever enough.
Mm,
And often along that paradigm comes a lot of anxiety and a feeling that they're always kind of missing the mark. And so um, that's a really common theme, I would say. Um, I've I'm trying to think specific examples. I just started working with this really amazing woman. She's a mother. She's like a tremendously hard worker. She's really fun. Like I would want to be friends with her. And I really appreciate her because she's deeply intuitive. She's deeply empathetic. She has read all of the books. She has implemented meditation. She has tried yoga. But the problem is that she's really been struggling with her ex because um, she has this beautiful daughter. And so there's the constant reminder of not being healed from the past. And so it comes and it feeds into the dreams and it's fed into how present and available she feels for life. And so we've only been working together for a short time, but she like after the first session, and again, here's another person who has done therapy, has done all of the things, but just couldn't like change the behavior patterns. So her desire is that she like can actually be present and figure out what her purpose is. Because I'm not going to tell her her purpose. She gets to find her purpose, but she needs to be present and able in life to do that. And so she was telling me that she had gone out and it's little things. It's like, oh, well, I started sleeping more. And when I have dreams, like they don't startle me awake. They're they're functional. I sleep through the night. I had a glass of wine when I went out of town in the middle of the day and I didn't make myself feel bad for it. I feel like when I think about him, I don't go into that spiral of thought that has kept me trapped for years. I keep wondering if this is just going to go away because I can't believe that this much has changed in so short amount of time. And it's stuff like that that makes me want to do this work because I mean, from my own healing path, um, I know what it's like to struggle
mhm,
in big ways, big ways.
mm,
And I know that like for me, my trauma, the way that it played into my psychology is that sense of not good enough, which is why I work with that so often, right? But and that those shame spirals that we go into. So it used to be for me that I would have an encounter and then I would second guess myself and second guess myself. And I would be like, oh, and so much energy would go into wondering if I said the right thing, if I did the right thing, if it was appropriate, because I have such a high degree of care.
mm,
But it was debilitating. And it's not just like the thought spiral, right? It's the worrying about everything at that point. And what you were talking about, that low grade anxiety, I used to live like that all of the time. And I didn't even know that I had anxiety, Scott. I didn't even know.
wow,
Yeah. And then it's like it starts going away and you just like I am like I love myself like so much. And sure, like I'm not like it's not my life isn't perfect, but I like myself in my imperfect life. And I think that's the difference. Like life still is sad sometimes. Like, I'm still a woman, I still have periods. Like, they can be hard.
Mhm.
Sometimes I'm really tired. But I like who I am with those imperfections of being a Jessica in this life. And that's what changes, I think.
Yeah, I think one of the things that you and I have in common is the motto of Love Coach Academy is how perfectly human. And I think one of the things I love about your work, it's very similar to Love Coach Academy work, is that we're not here to tell people what's wrong with them. We're not here to say you're broken, you're messed up, let me fix you. We're here to help people remember how wonderful they are, and that whatever they're facing, whatever their challenges are, it's part of the human experience. It's not because they're broken or they're damaged or they're wounded or they're screwed up. It's because they're dealing with really hard human stuff. And you're so good at helping people feel safe in looking at their stuff. And that's really, I'm the same way. So that's one of the reasons why I love it, because there's enough there's enough voices in the world shaming us. There's enough voices in the world, and sadly, very often it's members of our own family or beloveds telling us what's wrong with us. And we need to understand there's really nothing wrong with any of us. We just are having human experiences. We're in animal bodies. We are spiritual beings. Um, and it's hard to be a human. It's hard.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that. There's this thought that I've had recently. These are the spirals that I go into now. They're not shame spirals. They're like trying to think about good ways to describe things. So this thought is that, like, we have often, our culture has a really weird relationship to emotions. And we often act like it's or other people treat us this way, or we feel like it's our fault if we're having a strong emotional response, or that we shouldn't be, or we should be feeling something different.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's this thought that I have that, like, okay, so if I go outside and a tree falls on me and I break my arm, I go to the freaking doctor. There isn't any judgment that, like, oh, the tree, or oh, I shouldn't have been hit by this tree, like, oh, I shouldn't have broken my arm. It's just what's happening because a tree fell on me. There's no judgment there. It's just reality. And what if we saw our emotions that way? Oh my God, I'm having anxiety right now because I have this story that I needed to be a certain way and I didn't live up to that for whatever reason. And I am spiraling big time. Huh. Fact, fact, fact. Boom. How do I get help and get straight with myself?
Well, one of the things you talk about, I mean, this is one of my favorite topics. And by the way, I'm going to get to, there's a couple of questions and a big thank you for the woman that we put on camera.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much.
Um, it's tragic that most little boys at some point on the playground, they get hit by the ball, or some other poor kid gets hit by the ball, and the shaming begins because the kid who gets hit by the ball cries. It's a natural thing. You get hit, you're young, you cry. And all the other boys make a circle and call him pussy, whip, you know, and really ugly words. It's like an indoctrination of ugly words because you cried. And believe me, every little boy on the playground is making a holy vow: I will not cry under any circumstances. Even parents, that when they start to cry, don't cry, don't cry. It's like, it's so cruel. Crying is natural. I am so grateful that I cry. Of course, people who watch me on Saturday Night Live see me cry at least once a show. I was
Yeah.
shamed when I was a teenager for crying, and I didn't cry for 10 years because I was shamed for it.
Wow.
So I have a whole history around that. And then finally, I had a girlfriend who literally taught me how to cry again.
Wow.
And so, our emotions. And the other thing I want to say is that there's no such thing as, there's no bad feelings. There's no negative emotions. There's uncomfortable feelings. those uncomfortable emotions. But our emotions are always informing us of what's going on inside of us. And so learning how to get in touch with, well, I'm feeling anxiety, what's going on? Or
What's going on?
learning certain parts of the body when they feel contracted or uncomfortable, what's going on? What's going on with me? And the last thing I'll say is that long before the internet provided us with all the knowledge and information that we're seeking, our body was the internet. Our body told us if the weather was going to change. Our body told us where we would find water. Our body told us where we would find food. Our body told us when there was danger. Our body was what informed us for tens of thousands of years.
Yeah.
It's only been recent, like since the printing press and cities, that we got our information from outside of ourselves. And one of the things I love about your work, Jessica, is you're helping us to get back in touch with the incredible information center that our body is.
Thanks. That's my favorite part about brain spotting as well, because I really do believe that we each have our own answers. Period. Like I'm not your solution is already living in you. That's it. That's amazing. That's perfect. And then sometimes there's some clearing that wants to happen for us to find it. And that's really what brain spotting is it creates that container. And really, so brain spotting is a somatic based experience, which just means it's a body based experience. So we're going in, and that's where the trauma is actually stored, is in our body and in those places. So we can really use it to our advantage in order to heal ourselves. Because I think that, like the broken arm, tree falling on broken arm analogy, like really, like the body just needs the right environment to heal. It's not that we're meant to be forever broken. It's not that we are meant to be forever depressed, forever anxious, forever, stuck. It's like the kid in the class, like raising its hand because it's got a need. That's what's happening. Our bodies are saying, hey, it's not feeling okay in here. Can you please help me?
And all uncomfortable feelings are pointing to our unmet needs.
Yeah.
All, right? There's a wonderful quote from Marshall Rosenberg that underneath every uncomfortable emotion is an unmet need. And that's, of course, really at the core of nonviolent communication, really learning that. So Charlotte asked a question. I'm sorry, it took a little while to get to it, Charlotte. She asked, are there ways to prepare before a session or practices that a person can do afterwards?
It's pretty human dependent. I mean, no, not specifically. I'd say if you're a researcher, there's a lot of information on the internet, and there are videos that I can send you, or there are links that, I mean, it depends on how your mind works. Some people really like to have a lot of that beforehand, and some people just want the experience, but no, not necessarily. There are things, okay, I say no, and then obviously there's some yeses too. There are some tricks that I give people who suffer from anxiety attacks or from spiraling thoughts. There's a really easy way um, to quiet the vagus nerve, or to work with the vagus nerve so that our mind quiets. And you can stop an anxiety attack in like 3 minutes. So I do offer that. And I offer that to people also when they start to go into a loop. And when we finish the session, people are pretty subcortical. They're in, which basically looks like a very meditative state. They're very similar in my experience. And so you can maintain that eye position and know where it is for you if it's a resource spot, so that if you're going into something difficult, you have access and you can build that and use that as a part of your own meditative practice or strength building, if you will, over time.
All right. Beautiful. By the way, it's really wonderful to see a lot of my friends from Saturday Night Live or regulars on Sacred Sunday and Street Talk are with us tonight. So I just want to say hi to all of you. And one of our wonderful people who comes to almost all of our shows is Ayada, and she wrote something really beautiful. She said, Scott, you're so right. Our emotional life has been forbidden territory until very recently.
Mm.
Thankfully, we now have enough research to understand that emotion is not all in our heads, but rather it's biologically based and an essential aspect of our humanity, and indeed our intelligence, as the late Stanley Greenspan articulated so clearly. So that was beautiful.
Yes.
Good job.
Yes. Thank you. So articulate. Thank you.
So now you're constantly learning about brain spotting. You're still, it's like an ongoing thing for you, right?
Yeah. Scott, I lose hours in my week just doing the practice on myself. And I'm so some of my backstory, I've been in the healing arts for a long time. And starting, I think when I was 24, I started studying intuition and doing healing work where you kind of go into these subcortical states. And this is not through Bain spotting, but this was through an intuitive healer that I worked with for 10 plus years. And so she really, and I've also practiced Kundalini yoga since 2008 every day almost. And so there's this space that we can go to. And if you're a really practiced meditator, I'm sure that we have practiced meditators on here. There's that state between the conscious and the subconscious where we really can restory. And I would say that, I sort of tapped into some of that with the work that I did with other healers. And then when I found brain spotting, I was like, freaking bingo. Because you don't have to be a meditator. You don't have to have the ability to sit for hours and hours and hours. You can just go in and have the same like healing benefits of it. It's really amazing.
Wow.
And it's
Wow.
mainstream,
Yeah.
right? Like, yeah. So it's not like I'm not like trying to like sign people up to go sit for 4 days in an ashram or something. Like, it's just an hour.
And I want to say once again, it's a really pleasant hour. It's not an unpleasant hour. Now, you might be working on unpleasant stuff that comes up, right? Kind of like, honestly, it's kind of like purging. Puking is not fun while it's happening, but boy, you feel so much better afterwards.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I experienced both times with you. It wasn't, but your loving gaze and connection just felt so good that it allowed me to kind of go in and purge some of the stuff that was ready to come up and out in an
Yeah.
energetic, psychological kind of a way.
I'm
Brain
also
puking.
a bucket holder.
If you don't think brain spotting is bad, you could call it brain puking.
Oh my God, that's going on my Google ads. Come and puke out your spiritual soul. No, that sounds terrible. That sounds like you're puking your soul out. I don't know how to say it. I'll work on the phrasing.
Work on the phrasing.
I'm picturing things. It's not that pretty, but
It's not. We'll let that go. We'll let it go. Lorna, and by the way, thank you, Thomas from Maui. Beautiful, beautiful kind of affirmations and blessings that Thomas, who's another wonderful man, is sending us. Lorna writes, do you sense that our healing is being speeded up these days? Absolutely. What's your experience of that, Jessica?
I don't feel like I have a finger on that pulse because I get to see people healing all the time. So, yes, and I'm not the best person to ask. As far as like the broader vision, it does seem like, I mean, in my world, this last year has been flipping insane. Just like I don't know, churning butter and the stuff comes to the top, like, but much more vigorously and a lot more discomfort.
I mean, I mean, of course, no one I can't say for sure, but I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, because of COVID, we collectively as the human race have spent way more time at home. And so many of our distractions have been taken away. No concerts, no festivals, no sporting events. In many places, no clubs, bars, or restaurants. So we're home isolated. A lot of people have lost their jobs, lost their work. And at the same time that people are spending so much more time at home, there's such an influx of things like brain spotting, and other, modalities that are really emerging. And I think now, of course, obviously, these are the people that like we have in our room right now, who are holistic, health oriented, consciousness oriented. But I think most people that I talk to, and most of the people that are in our, we'll call it the global peace tribe, realize, okay, the planet needs to go through a big change. We are going through a big change. The planet's changing. Humanity must change. We must evolve. And we start with ourselves. We have to be the change we want to see in the world. We all know that. And so I think a lot of people are using COVID time to really drop deeper into their ability to heal, honor, manage, work on the stuff that maybe they hadn't been working on, or that they recognize they need to work on.
Yeah. What comes to mind for me is that which we resist persists. And
Yeah.
I think that which persists within us, it takes more and more distraction to get away from as time goes on because of the discomfort of it. And so I think that people probably go one of two ways, either you're using more distraction, whether that be substances or blame or, whatever it looks like, or we go in and we try to deal with the source of problem internally. And it sounds like, of course, Global Peace Tribe, all these wonderful humans, there's a lot more directed energy in, which is awesome.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
curious, what does Lorna think?
Well, Lorna has I'm going to see what Lorna says. And then Doctress Nutopia, one of our favorites, also has a question.
Okay.
Lorna says, I sense that the angels are working overtime.
I'm with you there.
More and more synchronicity.
Yes.
Yeah. And here's a question from our dear Doctress Nutopia. It's a good question. Why did you move from chocolate to love coaching?
Oh
Is
my
love
gosh.
more lucrative?
Oh, I mean, well, I hope so. Chocolate was amazing, but it was not my purpose. And chocolate, working in production, I used to do all parts of the chocolate company. And so it never, to me, this like brain spotting and healing is just a 100% yes. Whereas I spent years in chocolate going back and forth about whether or not it was true for me to continue doing it. And I did enjoy, I enjoyed my farmers markets and I enjoyed growing the company and the product was fantastic. And I think that chocolate is an amazing thing. I mean, think of the chemicals that it produces in the brain. It's so good. But when I really think about, and my stuff was all like no refined sugar, no dairy, so you could feel good about eating way too much of it. It's like, that's what we need in life. But for me, brain spotting is just, when you find the thing that it doesn't matter how long it takes, you're just going to keep doing it because it's just freaking right. And my body is such a yes for it that's pretty much why.
Yeah. I have enjoyed her chocolate, but I do prefer the brain spotting. And I think the brain spotting lasts longer. I'll say that.
The chemicals from brain spotting last
Yeah,
longer than chocolate. I feel like that should have been a subline in our.
that would have been in our advertising. Chocolate might taste better, but brain spotting lasts longer. It's less filling.
Actually, there was a study done. So Brainspotting is considered next generation EMDR. So if you're in the healing world, you've done therapy, you've done trauma work, EMDR is a type of trauma therapy. And so they've done comparison studies, and Brainspotting and EMDR get similar results after 1 month and after 3 months, but after 6 months, Brainspotting has more results. So your brain is like, our brains are just healing, like they're just continuing to heal.
Wow.
And
Wow.
that was after 3 sessions that the study was done.
That's very cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it's been a fast hour. And I really, really appreciate all the people that have come into our Zoom room. I'll see if there's any last thoughts or questions that come in. But thank you, everybody. And I'm going to do a quick pitch. I hope you don't mind. But tomorrow is our 1-year anniversary of Saturday Night Alive. It started exactly a year. Actually, it started a little over a year ago. And so we're going to show like special moments. So you're going to see some of our clips with Matt Kahn, Marianne Williamson, Reverend Michael, Gene Houston, Andrew Harvey, Carolyn Meese, Greg Braden, Lynn Twist. I was actually on the phone with Lynn Twist today, doing a pre-record with her for a show we're doing next week. Deepak Chopra and many, many others. We're going to have live music with Nina Gray, and Jayu Tal is going to do a kirtan, and our beloved Louis Stowe. And then we've got a lot of friends who are going to come and visit. We're going to be showing some of our best magic pieces and have live magicians. It's going to be a really, 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 really special show.
Yay.
Join us on Saturday night. And I want to promote one other thing, which is, and you've been on it. Jessica's been on my Sacred Sunday show. And so, of course, it's Easter. And when I was thinking about what I wanted to do for Easter, one of my favorite musicians, she has an amazing voice, is Lakshmi Del Sesto. And so I thought of Lakshmi. I said, hey, Lakshmi, let's do something together for Easter. And she said, that sounds good. So it'll be a combination of prayer, meditation, beautiful music, some kirtan, and really celebrating the rise of Christ consciousness within us, because that to me is what this means. It's going to be a non-denominational Sunday morning, but really looking at, okay, what does it really mean for each and every one of us? And certainly people that are the Christian tradition, that's wonderful. And even looking at, okay, how do you relate to the Christ consciousness within emerging? Is that the second coming? So it's going to be a beautiful, beautiful Sunday morning. And that's going to be, of course, at 10 o'clock. And thank you. Ayada writes, I will attest to how absolutely awesome Saturday Night Alive is. To anyone who has not checked it out, give yourself a real treat. Thank you, Ayada. Thank you.
Yes. So beautiful.
So last question for you, back to you. How do people best reach you? Is it filling out, is it going to that link that we put into the chat box?
Yeah, you can go to that link. You're also, of course, welcome to go to the website. It's just my name, jessicaosterday.com. The Acuity, and you can send me emails through there too if you have any other questions. But I think the best is to go through Acuity, because then you could just schedule a half an hour chat and we can see, can hear about you and what's happening for you and what you want to create, and see if we can make a plan forward. Because that's really, that's where my heart is.
Lose. I mean, a free
Yeah.
consultation. If nothing else, her laugh will heal you. She has the greatest laugh ever, right? So that is healing. So thank you. Dia writes, I'm loving you both. You speak right to my heart. So thank you, Dia. Namaste. All right. Namaste, dear Jessica.
Oh, thank you, Scott. I love you. Thank you for having me on.
My
So
pleasure.
beautiful.
Yeah, you did great. And thank you, Ayada and Dia and all of our friends in the chat bot, in the Zoom room. And we'll see you tomorrow night and get that free consultation from Jessica.
Thanks.
Good night, dear.
Night.